Hey folks, welcome to another episode of 5 to 15 with Musickers. Today I'm here with a prolific educator who's impacted many people's lives, Yvette Odell. Yvette, thank you for being with us.
Oh, thanks, Jason. I'm so happy to be with you.
Likewise. Before we get started, it's going to be a little different than the start of other interviews. This is just a really cool thing that Yvette has here in her studio. Yvette, can you tell us a little bit about the side of the stairwell here?
Well, I was asked by the builder of my house, which this is where my studio is in my house right now, and he said, do something fancy with the stairs, and I said, okay, I have a great idea. So I made a little, stairway harp.
Pretty cool. Yeah, that's really cool. So Yvette is a Kindermusik teacher. In fact, she's been globally in the top 5% of Kindermusik teachers since 2000. So, and a leader in her profession for the last 23 years, which is incredible. For our viewers, can you tell us a little bit about what Kindermusik is?
Kindermusik is a music and movement program, curriculum, and it is all around the world, and it's for newborn to 7 years old. So at the very youngest classes, it's adult interactive, so the grown-ups are with the children. And then as they grow up and be a little more independent, the curriculum also gets more academic. So in the last 2 years, the children are actually learning how to read music. So it's a wonderful program, and it's a great step into the next journey of your music education life, so like private lessons or dance or choir or voice lessons. So it's the foundation for it all.
That's wonderful. Well, your background is in music, of course, and you're a flutist and you play several different instruments. How did you get into Kindermusik? Can you tell us a little bit about your journey into this world?
Well, I have to say, I started out as a French major in college, but I was not happy. Music just was calling me, so I switched over to music education. And even that had a really rocky start. As I was I thought I was going to be the band and choir director. That was my goal. I had a really rough start in teaching in public schools. So when I had my children, I decided to be a stay-at-home mom, and I started taking my guitar to play groups, and they said, wow, if you do this every week, we'll pay you. And I'm like, that's an interesting thought. So I did, and I invented this thing called Music and Kids, and a few years later I met Kindermusik, which was like the inverse of my business card. And with this program, the families actually can continue the music education at home because the stories and the recordings you have access to. And that was something I was missing in my own program, so I jumped in with both feet, and that was in 1995, so I've been doing it for a while.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
What are some of the things, because you start out with this sort of expectation, if I'm going to be a band choir director, what are some of the things that school, your music education training when you're in college, didn't prepare you for as a Kindermusik teacher?
Well, since I thought that I was going to be the band and choir teacher, I really didn't have the early childhood. So I did go back for a couple extra classes, and I did kind of a Waldorf approach to music education, and I didn't realize that early childhood education was going to be such an important, that's where my heart is. I didn't even know it. I mean, it just when a baby walks into my class, I can tell right away that music is their native language. Yeah. They can't speak English, but when you sing, they brighten up. When a little teeny bit part of me, even if they're tentative about coming into a new space and they're worried that their grown-ups are going to drop them off, or they look all worried, and the minute you start singing, and me just singing all by myself, and they start to do this, they can't help it, they start dancing. And then I realized that babies can match pitches. Even the tiny squishy babies that can't even roll over yet can match pitches.
That's incredible.
That they're hardwired to decipher language through the elements of music. And so what better doorway into music education into helping these young human beings bloom in a musical way. Then Kindermusik, because here I am and I get to see it every day, this natural music aptitude. And you wonder, where does it go? Because there's a lot of people who have lost their music aptitude. I really believe that we're human. If you're human, then you're musical.
Yep.
And that's where I start from. And I feel like it's a mission. It's a mission to open up the musicality in human beings, or rather not even open it up because it's there, but to help the parents see how they can nurture this or keep it alive. Like, they have to notice when their children are being musical, so that the impulsive musicalness that's coming through the children can then become intentional. So
that's powerful. I think it's really powerful because it shows that everyone is a musician, essentially. Music is part of the human experience. What are some moments in your work? I mean, just hearing the passion that you had talking about, just especially newborns who are able to match pitch, that's incredible. What are some experiences, or any particular anecdotes or stories you can tell us about moments that were just transformative or moving for you in the Kindermusik classroom?
Well, probably the first time that I ever heard a child match my pitch, a baby, and I just was like, oh my gosh, we have a Mozart in our group, we have to do something. And then as I actually had opened up my ear to hearing that, I realized that all babies do it. And so then I was like, oh, we have many Mozarts in our group, and we have to do something about it. And actually, all you have to do is sing and play and keep the steady beat, and just have that joyful experience together. But maybe another one that just comes to my mind is an older child who, all children are different, and they're just amazing puzzles to figure out. So I had one little guy who, he didn't really like the glockenspiel, and the glockenspiel is a little metal barred instrument for students, and I mean, it's a real instrument, but I use it in my classes to help the children read music, hear the music, play the music, and it's a challenging instrument. So I had this one little guy who, he did not love the glockenspiel, which it's understandable, because whenever that happens, I realize, man, that guy has such a good ear that his eye-hand coordination might not match the power of his ear. And if he gets it wrong, he's going to be mad. So, like, he every time it was time for us to play the glockenspiel, he would hide under the chairs. And he went through the whole program. And when his sister grew up and got the glockenspiel, he went and found every bar of his glockenspiel, and he played every song that he never played for me.
That's wonderful.
So it's just like I had to do a lot of trust that if the child is in the environment, sometimes we have to do a little song and dance to convince the parents that the child is still learning, and they are. So, I mean, it's brought me to a level of understanding of how a child learns. Or, they will learn. I've never seen a 6-month-old that didn't know how to learn. And I've never seen a 5-year-old that didn't know how to learn. And, so the whole question is like, what is education? For me, it's like you put out a buffet and then they'll learn. Right. They don't have to eat everything on the buffet, but they will learn. And now I have to tell you, this little guy is an adult and he plays trombone, so.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting what you mentioned about, folks in that age group, right? Young people in this age. They all can learn. You mentioned, I thought this was a really cool element of the Kindermusik program, that the parents of the children are learning with the children. All the children can learn. What has been your experience working with the adults? Do you have anything you can share about their learning style or their experience working with their children?
That's really very interesting, and I think that since I've been teaching for, this is my 29th year now, that I see parents or the adults in the room, because sometimes it's the grandparents and sometimes it's a nanny or caregiver, but I often see that they have a hard time trusting that their child is amazing, a genius, as a matter of fact. So that's kind of one of the things I would like to help parents. And it's interesting because, it's a music class, it's music education, and yet I think that the connection between the child and the adult is probably my primary focus. So if, parenting tips come easily when you're working with music. Music helps transitions. If a child is having trouble, and I say to the parents, just, sing a little song. And the parents come back to me and say, it's magic. I sing toys away, and the children just do it. Whereas if I said, it's time to go, put your toys away, it doesn't connect. And so parenting tips but in the line of music, I've had parents tell me that they learn so much about music by following their children through Kindermusik. I have this one clip that we asked the children to listen to this dog barking. A little dog barking, a big dog barking, and we listened to it. And then after we listened to it, and it's on their home album, they listen to it all the time. And then on the third week of listening to it, I say, did you hear that bird that's in that little clip? And I had one mom say to me, you didn't play that one last week, it was different. There was no bird on it last week. And I said, no, the bird's been there the whole time. Yeah. And so I'm asking the parents to listen in a more deep way and have the intention of listening deeply, because I think listening changes your brain. Listening changes your relationships. Listening changes everything. It changes how you think. And so the parents are trying to figure out how can they listen to layers of sound, hear two sounds at once, which musicians do all the time. Hear, 12 sounds all at once. How do you do that? And, for that matter, I think that babies listen to the all of the sound tapestry that's around us, and they have to learn how to listen to one thing because they're listening to the everything of the universe. They probably hear things that we don't even hear. And then we bring it back to, can you now with intention listen to 4 things or 3 things at the same time? So yeah, I hope parents go away from my classes with a different relationship with music and listening, and a relationship with their child.
That's really beautiful. It shows us that music is a way of just experiencing life. It's not just this separate thing. And there's so much we can learn from music. One thing I'm curious to know about is sort of the industry of Kindermusik and sort of the business side, because you're wearing a hat as the educator, but you're running your own business as well. What are some, especially for people who are going into early childhood education with music and things like that, what are some tips or some insight from almost 3 decades of teaching that you might offer to people entering this career from a business perspective, some things they should know about or look out for?
I think the first thing that came to my mind was that there's such a huge need. Oh my gosh. Even if you think you might end up just being a preschool teacher, if you have music in your background, my gosh, you are going to be a stellar preschool teacher. I hear so many stories, or I even walk by a preschool classroom and hear they know 3 songs. They change the words to those 3 songs, but they only know 3 songs, and they sing them too low for the children.
Yeah.
And so there is a fork in the road for a child's musicality. So I'm telling you will be a stellar educator if you went from the direction of music. But as far as running my own business, I've taught in public schools, and I've done other various jobs in my life where I work for other people. I love working for myself, but it's also really hard. You're working with infinity as far as I could have done more all the time. You could have done something more. And as right now I'm gearing up for another semester, there's so many emails, and but there's things that have made it easier over the years. Like there's websites are easier, and there's like, there's programs that can take your credit cards and the payments and all that, and you can generate newsletters. I mean, there's a lot of things that have made it easier, and the training for Kindermusik is all online now. You don't have to go anywhere, and then there's people that will mentor you through the process, and it's you have to toot your own horn. And I would say that advertisement has evolved over the years in a very great way. I mean, you don't take out newspaper ads anymore,
Yeah.
but you have to figure out how to do the social media thing, or like I actually prefer like getting out into the community and doing things where they can see who you are with your drums and your shakers, like library story times or farmers market gigs, or things like that. And that's hard work, but it's doable if you're dedicated. It's also, I mean, Kindermusik is also a job that you can just do a few classes while you are raising a family, like you can weave it into your life. And that's pretty much what I did. Started very small. I had young children, and eventually I had 4 other teachers working for me, and a large studio. That was before I moved back down to Asheville and started from scratch. But there's many ways to do it. Many ways.
Well, speaking of the social media thing and all that, is there a way that people can learn about your Kindermusik studio?
Yeah, I am at kindermusikwithyvette.com, and my name is spelled Yvette. And so my classes are on there. I also am on Facebook, although it seems like that's not as popular a place for everybody. I'm working on finding someone who will help me with my Instagram.
You hear that, folks?
Yeah, and TikTok. So I'm gonna barter with a family that is gonna be doing a little bit more of my social media. So like if you're not great at that part of things, it's still important. And Kindermusik International gives you a lot of these things to post. They make it as easy as possible. But yeah.
Wonderful. Yvette, thank you so much for your time. This has been great.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Have a great one, man.